Hey everyone, this is Izzy here coming to you live once again from his bedroom with his review for Bumblebee. Everyone is well aware of how popular the Transformers franchise is. It's a very, very popular and exciting toy line with the cartoons and the video games, comic books. I grew up with Transformers. My first introduction to them was when I was living in Germany, and all the kids that I played with had Transformers toys. Most of them had Optimus Prime, Megatron, Soundwave, Shockwave, Hot Rod, Ultra Magnus, Bumblebee, but you weren't cool if you didn't have Optimus Prime or Megatron. So when my mom bought me Optimus Prime, I think it was a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. But when she bought it for me, I was so excited I could be part of the cool kids and could play with them. But my very first Transformers introduction, as far as the film was concerned, was this. The 1986 Transformers the movie, which is still my favorite Transformers film of all time. I may have to watch Bumblebee again to give a much more fair assessment of where it stands with this, whether it's second or tied with this. Everyone also knows that Michael Bay was a director who brought the live-action Transformers film to the forefront. And he was the director who directed every single one. With each sequel dipping in quality and storyline. And the only reason why I have The Last Night, which is what I consider to be the worst of the bunch, and I added it mainly for collection purposes. I figured I have all the other live action films, might as well add this one to it. Bumblebee is the prequel, spin-off, slop reboot of the Transformers franchise that is focusing solely on Bumblebee. This is the story of Bumblebee coming to Earth and defending it while also becoming solidified in his bond with character, with actress and her character Charlie Watson. Haley Steinfeld is the one who plays Charlie Watson, and she is absolutely magnificent in the role. The film overall is brilliant. It is strong on character development. The tone is right, and for the first time, we actually get to see a live action version of the G1 classic design of the Transformers, which is something that fans have been clamoring for years, especially after the Michael Bay versions. And one of the biggest complaints of his designs was the fact that you couldn't differentiate between the Autobots and the Decepticons, as they essentially look the same. And I could never understand why that when it came to the action sequences in those particular films, how every critic or fan of the fans who grew up watching it were like, it's like one giant, big, metallic porn fest. And I couldn't understand why they said that until I rewatched some of the films and the action sequences, and I thought, man, you really cannot tell who's fighting who. They all look the same. And in this film, the Autobots actually look like Autobots. Decepticons look like Decepticons in their classic G1 designs. When you see the first sequence of them on Cybertron, which is, it's not really a huge spoiler because we saw it in the trailers, but it was a huge dream come true for me personally as someone who grew up watching these cartoons. Just seeing Optimus Prime, Soundwave, Shockwave, Starscream, and Bumblebee and RC on Cybertron engaging in battle with the Decepticons was just mesmerizing. Probably one of the best parts of the film, actually. Just something that we have been wanting to see for a long time, and to finally see it in live action on the big screen was just, words can't describe how amazing it was. But if anyone is coming to this film expecting a 2-hour plus film of non-stop action with alien robots battling each other, you might be disappointed simply because it's so much more than that. There's not a whole lot of action in it, but when the action does take place, it's part of the story. And one of the things that this film does magnificently, actually, is how it's so strongly solidified with the fact that it's a character study film. It's more about the character of Bumblebee and Charlie Watson than anything else, because it's their story. It is their story, and then you have John Cena, who plays a government agent, and it's John Cena playing John Cena in a military role. I mean, you know, if you go in expecting to see John Cena put on a tour de force acting, you know, I don't know what to tell you. It's just John Cena being John Cena. There's really not much more to add to that. I mean, I guess you could say he adds the proper amount of over the topness and somewhat sinister display, which is actually, it was quite clever on the advertisements because they really amped up the fact that he was the potential big villain, but it wasn't the case. Not a huge spoiler, but just John Cena being John Cena. I don't really have much more to say about his performance. But Haley Steinfeld's performance was one of the most raw, convincing, and emotional performances I'd ever witnessed in a science fiction action film. You felt her motivations, you felt her distanceness, you felt just how close she got to Bumblebee, and there were many scenes where I was so moved by her facial expressions, her anger, her sadness, her isolation. It was something that I could relate to as well. I think that's very important when you find yourself relating to a particular character. Because as I've gone through my issues in the past, and I know what it's like to be isolated, and I was so intrigued by how she managed to convey those emotions because they're real, they're very realistic, and when you find something or someone that you are close to, you know, you don't want to let that go. And she is her relationship with Bumblebee is one of the most powerful relationships of all. It's so much better than Shia LaBeouf, Sam with Ricky's relationship with Bumblebee. This one felt more organic, felt more real, was a lot more emotional, and just had a lot more heart. And that's what has been missing in the Transformers films. But Bumblebee takes place in 1987 and is very obvious with the fashion and the music and the technology that was part of that particular time period, and also the news events. It was very interesting how you find yourself remembering how certain events was going on at that point in time. But I have to say, Bumblebee was one of the greatest Transformers films I had ever seen in my life. It was strong in character development, powerful, emotional, the tone was right, and it was everything that fans have been wanting to see in a Transformers film for years. And I can only hope that this is a direction they continue going into with future Transformers films, because it's living proof that if you craft a strong, intricate, and unique story, the audience will come to it. And I think more or less fans and critics have just got kind of burnt out by Michael Bay's Transformers films. And not taking anything away from Michael Bay, I do like quite a bit of his work. I love The Rock, Bad Boys, The Island, Pearl Harbor is a guilty pleasure. The first Transformers film was a guilty pleasure, and even though the sequels were less than desired, I mean, he did bring the Transformers to a live-action format that many people thought would never be done. And I did enjoy playing the game, so I don't view Michael Bay as a hack. I think he's just much better when it comes to doing projects that he's passionate about. And Transformers, I don't think is anything that he needs to be involved in anymore. Which again, it's not a slight on him, not insulting his contribution to cinema, but we don't need any more Michael Bay Transformers films. Bumblebee is where it needs to go, and with a sequel, with more Transformers being involved, this is the absolute direction that is best for the fans and for the franchise. It was such a breath of fresh air just to see a film that had a great story, and the action was what propelled the story into what I consider to be a great film. Overall, Bumblebee, great film, a 5 out of 5 experience. If you want to see more of a detailed explanation of my analysis of the film, the link to my Facebook, I use my Facebook for my film reviews, for typed film reviews, so feel free to visit my Facebook page, and you can see not only my review of Bumblebee, but my retro film reviews. But I go into much deeper analysis with my type written reviews. So it's definitely something that I think maybe you guys would be interested in. If not, it's cool. But at the same time, I want to give Bumblebee a 5 out of 5. Great action, great character development, great acting from especially from Haley Steinfeld. The visual effects with Bumblebee and the Decepticons was amazing, and seeing Cybertron on the big screen for the first time was just, words can't describe how I felt like a little kid again. Something that I've been always wanted to see, and to finally see it live and in living color with all the different colors and all the different Autobots and Decepticons engaging in battle, you don't get much better than that. I can only hope and pray for that at some point in the future, when they do decide to do a sequel or bring more Transformers into the forefront, that we'll see more of the Cybertronian warfare. Again, Bumblebee, 5 out of 5. Feel free to check out my Facebook link, and my next review will most likely be Glass on YouTube, which is the sequel to Unbreakable and Split, part of the M. Night Shyamalan cinematic universe, which is something I'm looking forward to. Thank you for viewing the video. Thank you for the support. Feel free to spread the word about my YouTube channel, and I will see you guys again for Glass on January 18th. Thank you. Peace out, my friends.